What is going on, baseball fans? This is episode 1 of our podcast, where it's going to be a one-stop shop for all baseball news and updates for all you fans out there. Jared, what else are we going to have on this channel?
We're gonna have trivia, Sporkle videos, baseball-related challenges.
Some on the field content, going to MLB games, hopefully Dodgers, Angels, Padres, all Southern California teams.
Yeah. Let's jump right into our first topic. We're going to be recapping free agency and the trades to this moment. So, obviously, the big fish in this free agent pool has been Juan Soto, signing the record-setting 15-year, $765 million contract with the crosstown rival Mets. To all Yankee fans' misery. It's a great day for me personally. But, yeah, what an outstanding contract to be signed. And I know Jared has some thoughts on the length and size of that contract, but I'll let him address that on his own.
Yeah, it's amazing that they got him. Good for the Mets, right? But that price is insane. He's worth. You can't tell me this guy's worth more than a Trout and Otani. Like, just no, not even close. Like he's a mediocre fielder, amazing hitter, and nobody can deny that. Uh, And the Mets getting him was a great move for them, but just for the price tag's insane. And they have now Lindor in that lineup along with Soto, so that's a good one too.
Mark Vientos.
Yeah, they have other players, right? But again, the Angels had Trout and Otani. They're not Trout and Otani. It's as simple as that. They didn't get to the playoffs one time. Yeah, the Angels are a much worse team than the Mets are currently, but again, it doesn't. You can't build a team around two guys. It takes a whole entire pitching staff, and I can name one pitcher in their starting rotation, Sean Manaea, and he had a great postseason.
Kodai Senga.
Kodai Senga.
Clay Holmes.
Okay. Oh, a
David
reliever.
Peterson.
A reliever.
David Peterson, yeah.
Yeah.
Paul Blackburn, was he
Okay.
at 5 right now?
Okay. I can name those guys, but for the point of the video I'm trying to make is who do they have? Really?
Yeah,
They don't have much of a rotation there. They don't have a playoff rotation.
they do have a good lineup. Like, obviously Lindor, Soto are the top two, but then Vientos, like he's another good one. Who knows? That could have just been a outlier year for him. Obviously, it was just his rookie year, but I've seen a lot of rookies do good and then fall straight off the cliff.
I will say a guy that they lost though, Pete Alonso, or at least as of right now, they
As of right
lost.
now, yeah.
Pete Alonso, they lost. I think that a lot of their playoff run was because of him. They didn't get past the Brewers
They
without
don't
him.
get past Devin Williams without Pete Alonso.
They did not get past the Brewers without him, and they made it all the way to the CS. So
yeah, the Mets 2024 oh my god season will be one to be remembered for a very long time.
It was fun.
But some other big news regarding the Mets today is they just re-signed Jesse Winker, and all signs are pointing to Pete Alonso exiting from New York, as Andy Martino kind of detailed today. And the market for Pete Alonso is not much at the moment. Obviously, Toronto is involved in everyone. They're trying to throw their money to anyone they can get, but I really don't see. I know Andy detailed today that they could move Vladdy to third, and they could insert Pete at first. Obviously, knowing Vladdy is a free agent next year, but that would be probably one of the worst defensive infields in all of baseball, and I think that's a recipe for disaster in Toronto.
No doubt.
To pay another first baseman money when you're trying to extend your superstar.
100%.
But yeah, so Mets got a lot going on, but they're always going to be making moves. Steve Cohen, what can you say?
I think
the type of owner you want in baseball.
Man. I think he has more money than all owners combined.
I think to your point about their 1-2 punch not being Trout and Otani, I think the Mets are going to be a little bit different because Steve Cohen is light years above Artie Moreno.
Yeah.
He's going to keep adding. I think he's a fan at heart, and he's just going to continue spending.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it. I said the Angels aren't the Mets. It is a different all-around team. So there's that aspect of it. I'm not saying that they're going to be bad like the Angels are. They're not going to be bad. I can see them getting back in the playoffs, but the Braves are gonna come back. There's no way they have a worse
They're
year than they had
they're
last year. They had the most unlucky year possibly
they're
ever.
gonna be healthy this year.
Insane.
They were riddled with injury last year.
And then they're always gonna have to compete with the Phillies. So there's 2 teams possibly above them, and then you got to count the NL West. One of those second place teams, whether it's the Diamondbacks or Padres, we can say the Dodgers are getting first again.
Obviously,
So one of those 2
Don't
teams,
count out the D-backs.
one of those 2 teams is getting into the wild
Don't count
card.
out
And
Arizona.
does that mean that also the Mets are going to be sneaking in there along with the Phillies and or Braves? I don't know.
what I think how it is right now in the National League East, I honestly think Braves retake first place, Phillies get second. Mets are gonna have to fight for a wild card spot, which the wild card with the other National League West teams, like you mentioned, Diamondbacks, Padres, could be them 3: Mets, Diamondbacks, Padres.
I think
As
so
it-
too. But again, is it going to be the Mets or is it going to be the Phillies? I'd lean towards the Phillies. They have a playoff roster, more well-rounded roster than the Mets do for sure, especially with that pitching rotation. I can name every starting pitcher, and they're all really good pitchers and could be aces at other locations. But they're all in one. They're all in one rotation, so they're gonna be, I think, a lock.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say that. Although the Mets got the big fish of the offseason, I don't think it's out of this world to say that they could potentially miss the postseason in 2025.
I think that
I don't
I
think
think
that's out
they
of the realm of
will.
possibility.
I
Yeah,
think they will. I do think even though they added Soto, I do think that they will be worse than they were last year.
yeah. I think they did a
Not by
fantastic
much.
job last year with guys like Quintana, Minaya, Severino. Their pitching development is one of the best in baseball. But you know, they're going to be converting Clay Holmes into a starter. We'll see how that goes. They paid him 3 years, I think 38 million. So decent contract if that works out for them. But there will be question marks in their rotation. Let's move on to the 2 biggest trades of the offseason to this point. The Red Sox going out, getting their ace, getting Garrett Crochet from Chicago, and the Cubs going out and getting arguably a top 5 player in baseball, if you really want to talk about it, top 10 at least,
I'd say.
and Kyle Tucker, albeit he's got 1 year left on his deal, but that should give Chicago a really good chance to win that division. So, what are some thoughts on those 2 trades?
The Crochet trade made a lot of sense, especially for the Red Sox. I mean, they said that they were going to try and get one of the big pitchers that were a
2.
free agent.
They said
The
2.
2 of the they didn't get any. So at least they got
Snell, Burns.
at least they got Crochet. So that's awesome for them.
Crochet. He is what 2 years left in his
2
contract.
years left. Yep, free agent after 2026.
I think those 2 years on his contract will be better overall than what 7 or 8 years that Fried got. He got 8.
You got 8 to 18 from New York.
I think the Crochet
And
deal
he's in his
is
30s too.
yeah. The Crochet deal is going to go down as a better deal than the Fried deal. Fried, seems like I feel like he never has major injuries, but it seems like he's on the injured list every single year.
I can attest to his injuries because I've had him on fantasy, and seeing this guy on my injury list most of the year is
Yeah.
pretty damn annoying because you pick him at a pretty premium spot in the draft, so it's not fun to have that guy on the injured list, and the Yankees are gonna have to deal with that.
Yeah, Crochet is just a strikeout machine. Like if I was a lefty batter, that's one of the pitchers I would not want to face ever. I would that's just not a fun at bat.
No doubt, he's a
And
big guy.
That fastball coming especially with his arm angle, that fastball coming like right by your neck, it seems like almost, and then that slider just dashing away from you, and like he added a sinker later in the year,
Yeah.
like devastating. Like I would not want to face him. He's definitely the ace of that staff now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think to touch more on the Crochet, I think that sinker will play big into his 2025 season. His last 2 starts, he was throwing it nonstop. I think one of the games he pitched against San Diego, he was perfecting that sinker, just outstanding, just an outstanding pitch. Also, the Red Sox have the least amount of forcing fastballs in baseball, so I think his fastball usage in Chicago was pretty high, and I think the Red Sox will do some different things to kind of change that up and maybe change that into a more of either a sinker look or a cutter look, something to kind of get away from the straight stuff and perfectly utilize his electric stuff.
Yeah.
So
Kyle Tucker too. We didn't talk about him,
yeah, big
but
trade.
that was a big trade. Obviously, Houston lost probably their best bat in the lineup. Jordan,
Absolutely.
it's hard to say, right? But uh, I think Tucker's more valuable because he plays in the field. He does have a good glove out there. Um, but I don't know why the Cubs did that. They got rid of Bellinger, shipped him to the Yankees, but then they brought in Tucker. So I don't know what they're building there, because it seems like when you trade for players, you're adding to your team, you're trying to build something. But when you're sending people away, you're more or less trying to get stuff out of them for the future. But it seems like Tucker's a player that you want now to do good now.
They that seems like a deal that they're trying to go for the division for, because I don't see them finishing in the wild card above, let's say, the National League West, who's or not sorry not National League West, National League East, who's going to win that? Mets, Braves, Phillies. Two of them aren't going to win. Two of them are going to be in the wild card most likely, or they're going to be battling with the Mets or no, sorry, Diamondbacks or Padres. Do you see the Cubs finishing above any of those teams? They have
No,
that's
they have to win.
it's win the division or bust. But are they going to beat the Brewers?
And who's another? Yeah, the Brewers. Brewers
Brewer,
Brewers are first
Brewers
place every year. It feels
they
like
lost Devin Williams, they lost Willie Adames, but they just seem to make all these players out of nowhere. Who was Bryce Terang? Who was Garrett Mitchell? Joey Ortiz. They turned him around. Obviously, they got him from the Orioles, but like these players come out of nowhere. It seems
Churrio's
like
great.
where did Corbin Burns come from? Their entire pitching staff is like almost all homegrown.
They're gonna have Woodruff back,
Woodruff is back.
and he's awesome to have in your. I loved having him in fantasy until he got hurt.
But yes, Kyle Tucker, win healthy, top 10, potentially top 5 player in the league.
Yes, definitely.
Probably the most undervalued player in baseball,
100%.
at least by fans.
100%.
I think most people in the know of baseball know his name, but I feel like when the casuals are out there, they ain't throwing around Tucker as one of the best players in baseball, and that is
Yeah,
absolutely
definitely.
asinine.
Yeah, but to my point, I don't understand why you get rid of Bellinger but add Tucker. Like you could have had a crazy outfield.
I think part of that is that they're just trying to shred some payroll. I think a little bit too.
Maybe
They
some
really didn't get that good
payroll.
of a return for Bellinger.
Who's their first
Yeah.
baseman
So
right now?
they're probably going to. They had a kind of an infield mix right now. They're trying to. Also, one of the big stories is that they were talking with Bregman, and Horner might be on the move. But yeah, Bellinger was going to be playing first. I think maybe
Yeah.
Paredes could get some innings.
But now he's gone.
Oh wait, no, he's in Houston. Yeah.
In Houston.
So at this point, I'm not too sure how they're gonna have that infield play out. But they definitely have some talent. I think the Tucker trade is to go for 2025. They're trying to win the NL Central.
What kind
A
of
lot of
pitching?
teams in
What
a
kind
lot
of
of
pitching
teams
do they
a
got?
lot of teams in that division. Kind of unfamiliar with. The Reds are up and coming. Pirates, they got a stellar rotation. Don't really got any bats. Speaking of the Pirates, that lineup is absolutely atrocious.
Give Skeens and give Jared Jones and Mitch Keller. Give them a chance. They need someone. They got Brian Reynolds. McCutcheon's old. Who else?
Give them Pete Alonso.
I don't even know what their owner's name is, but he's one of those owners that we need to talk about. People saying that the Dodgers are running baseball. These owners, like let's say the Pirates, the A's are finally starting to spend a little bit of money, not as much as they should. The who else? Reds, White Sox, Rockies, like these guys, these owners, like what are they doing? They're making profit every year off the revenue shares. They needed to be doing something, spending a little bit of money.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things today. Is Corbin Burns probably the one of, if not the biggest surprise of the offseason. He was heavily linked to Toronto, heavily linked to the Giants. Yankees were poking around, Red Sox were poking around, and at the wee hours of the night, just before Christmas, he lands in Arizona. Now that was pretty shocking. Obviously, he lives there, lives in Scottsdale, but I don't think anyone had Corbin Burns, probably the best starting free agent pitcher on the market, heading to the NL West, but said the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, agreed. I did initially think it was so random, but I think more that it was random in the sense that you didn't hear his name associated with the Diamondbacks. But thinking about it, it's a great fit. They add him to an already pretty dang good starting rotation. I think that this is something that could definitely add them back to the playoffs. I mean, they were in the World Series and then completely
They
missed out on the playoffs.
they led the league in runs scored this past season and missed the playoffs by what, 1 game?
Last day of the season.
Yep. And now they're starting rotation. What? Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen, Mitch Keller.
Mitch
uh,
Keller?
Or sorry, no, Mitch.
No,
Oh my God, why am I
not
blanking on his
Mitch.
name right now?
Merrill Kelly.
Merrill Kelly.
You threw me off too. I was like, wait, Mitch what?
And then Jordan Montgomery, he's probably not staying, but who knows? Bounce back season coming?
Jordan
Question mark.
Montgomery. What a guy.
They definitely
He
got.
can't do worse, can he?
They definitely have one other guy missing. Who's that rookie?
Ryan Nelson.
Ryan Nelson. No, not
Brandon
rookie.
Pfaadt.
Brandon Pfaadt. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yes.
Yeah, their lineup's already there. They lost Christian Walker.
They have Ketel
And
Marte.
Jock Peterson.
Ketel Marte is like Tucker. So underrated. Nobody talks about him.
Yeah.
He's in the same tier where you just like don't talk about this guy as being elite.
He had
But-
an absolutely incredible 2024.
Yeah.
I
Very
mean,
elite season.
yeah. Like,
But he finished top 3 MVP.
yeah, I was
top
gonna
5
say, where
MVP?
was he in MVP? It had to
Yeah.
be up there.
And they added Josh Naylor also. I feel like he's another guy like you just know he's gonna hit at least 25 home runs for your team, at least. Like, what else? What else?
And he's gonna bring the energy to Arizona.
Oh yeah, definitely. Look,
He's gonna
like
bring that energy.
I feel like he fits in perfectly with that team. Like he's not Latin, but I feel like they do have a lot of those Latin guys that just have that type of energy, like similar to him.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I think the last thing to recap for free agency is we got to talk about the reigning World Series champions, Los Angeles Dodgers. They started this offseason by going out and handing out a 5-year, $182 million contract to Blake Snell. And to say that was shocking as well, I didn't think they could go out and spend more money, but they did.
Blew my mind.
I almost fell to my knees when I saw that deal go down, because if they land the other big fish that's out there, that might be the one of the all-time rotations.
That news might be dropping tonight, according to a Japanese newspaper. Roki Sasaki.
Yeah. Today, filming on the 16th of January, he has another week to sign. It's the Dodgers or the Padres. We both agree, right? The Blue Jays are not interested in this.
Not going to the Blue Jays. No way.
I think
No.
they're just being used as like, it wasn't premeditated. You know, we all know that the Padres and Dodgers both have better pitching development. They're both on the West Coast, which has been a big factor into these Japanese players coming
A
over.
lot of them.
They're huge. It's a huge factor into why they want to play in Major League Baseball, and it's on the West Coast. That's what a big reason why Ohtani initially picked the Angels.
Yes.
You know, next year Murakami, probably one of, if not the biggest free agent coming over. I know the Yankees said that they're kind of pivoting their offseason to signing him, but it'll take a lot to pry him away from a West Coast needy first base team that will,
or
Third base.
or third base.
Because I did see that, I think in that same article that I saw, the Yankees pushing their focus to Munetaka Murakami next season. Murakami's saying he wants to go to a West Coast team, but the only exception would be the Yankees.
Yeah.
Like, all these Japanese guys just want to be on the West Coast. Seems like a lot of them want to come to the Dodgers, but I mean that's for them to decide, obviously. But they're just gonna go wherever they think they have the best chance at winning. Some of them do want to have like their own organization in, I guess, in a way. Like Imanaga, look, he did have Seiya Suzuki on the team, but he didn't want to be behind someone's like shadow. Like he didn't want to be behind Ohtani, Yamamoto, because those deals were already done by the time Imanaga signed. And who knows, Sasaki might be the same situation. We're still waiting on that news. Obviously, the Padres do have Darvish, but he is getting older. I don't think he's going to be like overshadowed by him at all. I think he'll kind of have his own way there.
I'll get to Sasaki in a second, but yeah, Snell shocked me. I did not see the Dodgers going after one of the big three. I thought they would have made an attempt at them, but actually land one. Especially because I think, from what I remember, Snell was the first big guy to go in free agency. So it felt really crazy to see the Dodgers just add somebody else like that, like an ace. You added an ace to a rotation full of aces. It's just crazy. Like, where are you placing these guys? Who's one? Who's two? Who's three? You can put anybody. It really doesn't matter.
Pick their names out of a hat.
It does not matter. And then Otani's coming back to pitch too. And then
Don't forget about Clayton Kershaw.
yeah, exactly.
He could be coming back for
Clayton
another
Kershaw is
season.
going to be that perfect six. Because it sounds like we're doing
Six-man
six.
rotation.
Sounds like we're
It's
doing
already
six.
confirmed.
Perfect six.
It sounds like, barring injury, I think a rotation of Otani, Yamamoto, Roki Sasaki, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, and Clayton Kershaw. While there are some very big question marks with health, age, all sorts. Otani now off his second Tommy John. If that rotation can all be healthy at once, I think it's up there for one of the most dominant and talented rotations to ever see Major League Baseball.
Absolutely. With a rotation like that, we're breaking the win record.
I think
Like it's got to be close to it. I mean, you got to think what we did a couple years ago, where we had 111 wins. You can say whatever you want about getting eliminated in the first round, but we still had 111 wins. What can we do with this team now? We didn't even break 100 this year, right? Nobody did.
No one did.
So you can only imagine. But our division did get a little bit better. You know, they added Corbin Burns over in the Diamondbacks, and who knows, Roki could go to the Padres.
Willie Thomas.
Hey,
Willie Thomas.
they added Martin Maldonado today.
Martin Maldonado.
So
Wow.
look out for San
Yeah.
Diego in 2025.
That might be the nail in the coffin for us.
So the most recent news with Roki Sasaki, like we said, it's got one more week to make his final decision. Jeff Passan came out with his tweet saying Dodgers, Padres, Blue Jays as the finalists. It was leaked on Twitter that he was in San Diego throwing in Padres gear, and it came out that he also went to Toronto and the same thing, but obviously the Dodgers got the last meeting, and it was said that marquee players and people were in that meeting. Obviously, Shohei was in there. Obviously, Yamamoto was in there. Tyler Glasnow detailed today about they share the same agent. He detailed on Foul Territory about his phone conversation with him. And I just think it's fascinating the pitch that every one of these three teams, you're really only hearing about the Dodgers and their pitches to him, which sort of has me swaying towards the Dodgers. Initially, I had Dodgers, Padres 50-50.
Yeah.
Like he could go with his mentor and Yu Darvish over to San Diego, still a West Coast team. Still very good team. I know both of you are Dodgers fans, but I think as an outside perspective, I still envision them having a decent year and potentially making the playoffs. So you can't ever count them out with Tatis, Machado, Bogarts, all those guys. However, what's the latest with Sasaki? Where is he going? How's it going to look?
There's pros and cons to both teams, but to me, there's an obvious choice. I think if you go to the Padres, you'll compete for a couple years, but ultimately, I think you'll be out of the playoffs in the next few years. Who knows what's going on with their ownership right now? They got that lawsuit and stuff going on. So, I mean, they're out here signing Maldonado. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Have they made any major league signings
They
this
have
season?
not.
I feel like it's
They are
all
one
been
of the
minor
few
leagues.
teams that Scott Boras is actively clamoring for to make moves. And for the longest time, we've heard, the Padres are going to cut payroll. They're going to cut payroll.
They had to.
And
They had to trade Soto
They
last
had
year.
to. They had to trade Soto. They got Cease and they got Michael King coming up as free agents next year. I really don't envision them as re-signing any one of those two.
They are potentially trading them also. At least one of them. Potentially.
Yeah. Recently, Cease was in a few rumors about trades. I heard the Red Sox were in there. I really don't envision him being moved. I think the Padres think they can compete in 2025, especially if they get Sasaki. However, it's a big, big question mark. They have to win in 2025 because they will be losing their best two arms in the starting rotation.
And I don't see them getting any new ones.
and I don't
Yeah.
see them getting out of that Bogarts deal anytime soon.
I mean,
That is really hindering them.
that just makes my point that much more valid. I think Sasaki will have a couple years maybe in the playoffs on the Padres if he's on the Dodgers, depending on how long he stays there for. It could be his whole career in the playoffs. He can make the playoffs every single year if he's on the Dodgers. And I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to say that he's not going to win any championships. Like the Dodgers are going to win a couple of championships with him if he's on that team. There's no doubt.
If the Dodgers get him for this initial free agent signing right now, as it stands, what is it? I believe it's 6 years, with 4 of those years being pre-arbitration, so league minimum.
Yeah.
4 years league minimum, and then the last 2 years is when he gets his arbitration money.
Yeah.
And then he hits free agency.
So he
which
hit free agency at 29 at this moment.
Because he's 23 right now, so
Yeah.
yeah, 29. At that point, 6 years with the Dodgers. How many rings do you think he's going to have? I would say, as it stands right now, with how the team is going, at least 2 rings in those 6 years. But obviously, a lot of things can change with that. Who knows? Could be 5 rings, or could be 0
Could be
for
0.
all I know. But
baseball's an ever so changing game.
I would just say, if they do get 2+ rings during that time, why would he not just re-sign with them? Obviously, you could get a big potential deal, but at the same time, if all he cares about is winning, which
As a player, that's what should matter.
that's what I would want.
That's one thing.
But I think that is one of the main things he has been saying. He wants to go to a team with good pitching development. Dodgers. Look at their bullpen last year, or any year. Almost all of the relievers in their bullpen are guys that they either turn their career around, or they just picked up off of waivers or traded for cash, and they turn them into these beasts. Like, look at Anthony Bonda last year as an example. Like, Dodgers always have great pitching development. Tyler Anderson, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah. Was free agent on the
No one really knew who, or not a lot of people knew who he was. Like, he definitely was not a big name. Comes to the Dodgers, all-star.
Yeah, and turned into a career year in 22 and got that big deal from the Angels.
Andrew Heaney, people forget that same year he was on pace for an all-star season and then got injured. He had a great year on the 1 year of the Dodgers. It's just that he was injured for a bit of it, so people don't remember.
It's not just pitching; it's the environment that they have. It's like their hitters too. Like, think about the guys that they brought in and turned into all-stars and gave them a career. Really, Max Muncy, Justin Turner.
Jason Hayward had a breakout.
Chris Taylor.
Before he got unfortunately cut.
Chris Taylor, we traded him for a prospect. I believe his name is Zach Lee. He was supposed to be pretty good. He didn't really turn out to be much in the major leagues, at least. But look what we did with Chris Taylor. Well, I think he only had 1 All-Star year, but there's a couple other years that you could have argued he could have been an All-Star. He was like a core piece of the Dodgers teams from 2017 to 2022 before he started to fall off. Yeah, Justin Turner and Max Muncy, like you said. There's got to be others that we're just not thinking of off the top of our head, but
yeah, 100%.
Dodgers do it all the time with players. What's the next?
One thing that I think we said about winning, that's one thing I forgot to say about Soto, is I didn't bring up the part where he just went there for money, which I think is it's horrible. Like, I know that there were things that happened between him and the Yankees of whatnot, the contracts, and it's his family not getting a box at Yankee Stadium and this, that, whatever, which I get 100%. For only $5 million less, I don't know, just loyalty is such a big thing, you know? It's when you think about some of the greatest players ever, not just in baseball, but just, you think of them on one team. So it's just it's crazy to think of Soto's yes, he got traded a lot of those, but I gotta think that he had somewhat of a say in leaving Washington and leaving San Diego. Now he's leaving the Yankees. This will be what, 6th season next year?
For Soto?
How many?
He started in 2018.
Okay, so whatever number season, this will be his 4th team. That's crazy. I don't know.
It's pretty unprecedented for a player of his caliber.
I like loyal players. You know, we have a lot of these. We have a lot of these in LA that stick around for a while.
Yeah, one thing that really points out is that he's saying "we" a lot about the Dodgers while wearing a Pirates jersey.
True.
You want to touch on that a little bit?
I'm a Dodger fan. I wanted to switch it up. He is a Dodger stuff. I don't want to go too much. I think we've already got quite a bit, but we're not gonna be Dodger bias here.
Yeah, we promise this
We
is
want
not
to
a
see
Dodger
teams. We
channel,
want
and
to
I'm a
see
Red
teams.
Sox
We
fan.
want to see teams like the Padres do good. That makes our division better. If they go out and win a championship over all these years where we're supposed to be so dominant, and then we go out and beat them again the next year or whatever you want to say, it's like that makes our division, that makes us look better too.
It'll make that rivalry.
It's yeah.
Even
I
better.
would not be mad at all to see them win. I
I
would not be mad
I
at all.
believe it was 2019. The National League West like ran baseball, and surprisingly, Giants and Padres weren't in that discussion. It was Dodgers won the division, and the two wild card teams at the time, because there was only two teams, Diamondbacks and Rockies. Like that,
I believe
I
that was
went
2017.
17.
That was the
Yeah,
year
it
the
was
Dodgers won the World
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But
But yes, that was a good year for the NL West.
I miss when the National League West was like. I mean, the National League West is still competitive, but I miss when all the teams are competitive. Like that was probably the last time the Rockies made it to the playoffs, and I don't see them making it to the playoffs anytime soon.
Yeah.
Which honestly, they're probably the only
Mm-mm.
team in that division that isn't competitive right now.
I-
Giants have been spending money; they're just having
I
a hard time finding someone to take their money.
That's one thing is I was just say is finally people have taken their money this offseason. Like I like that you can say whatever you want currently about the Padres being our rival and stuff, but ultimately the Giants will always be our biggest rival. Always be. 100%. It's like Yankees Red Sox. That's they got that over on the East Coast. We got Dodgers and Giants over on the West Coast. That's just how it is. Like yes, the currently that's what's hot is the Padres Dodgers, but ultimately at the in the back of every Dodger fan's head, if the Giants are competing, if the Giants are good, that's our rival. 100%. What was the year that they just casually or not casually
Both in
randomly
2021,
yeah,
107 wins with the Giants and 106 of the Dodgers. That was
randomly
an
took
all-time
first place.
NLDS.
Randomly took first place.
On the check swing. Ends on the check swing.
Yep. Cody Bellinger, very clutch in the ninth inning. Speaking of now the Yankee, let's shift over to Bregman. Another big marquee free agent, still on the board in mid-January. We've heard that Toronto's in and they have a big deal on the table per multiple sources. We've also heard that Detroit's in the mix, and they've been wanting to give a high AAV, but they've been not wanting to commit the years because they have another good solid core of infielders. But I really think that at this stage of free agency, he's not going to Toronto. I don't think many want to go to Toronto. I think and I'm not trying to be biased, but I think he's holding out for Boston. I think the Red Sox have been rumored with him for the longest time this whole offseason. Alex Cora recently just at Fenway Fest talking about Bregman as a potential Gold Glove second baseman. I think Craig Breslow, president of baseball operations with the Boston Red Sox, knows that they have a young core of prospects coming up to the big leagues very, very soon. They have the number one rated prospect farm system in baseball. They got Christian Campbell coming up. They have Marcelo Meyer at shortstop. They have Roman Anthony coming up. So they have three highly, highly touted prospects on the rise. And I think with the way they're operating, the Red Sox don't want to give Bregman the years. They know that 7 years is too much. He's going into his age 31 season.
Already seen regression for sure.
They're probably looking for the years to come down and maybe front load some money, potentially give him an opt out. With Campbell being listed as the second baseman, he can insert there. You got Devers at third. You got Story at short. You got Tristan Casas at first. I think we could touch on his trade rumors too. Don't trade Tristan Casas.
Keep them.
Anyway, as non-Red Sox fans, what are your thoughts on his potential market? And do you see it playing out where he's sort of a Matt Chapman late signing, where he's in maybe mid-February, still doesn't have a home yet, and a surprise team comes in the mix? Or do you think one of those three teams, will end up with Bregman's duties?
I do see him most likely in Boston. But at this point, like it's been a while. Who knows where he's gonna go? And like I'd hate to. I think last year was a big example of why I don't want to see players sign so late because they don't get to develop in spring training. That's what, like, the two that I can really remember is Snell and Montgomery.
Montgomery was
And
late March, right before
Yeah.
the season.
and Montgomery had one of maybe even the worst season of all of baseball. His we had like a
Major
like
regression,
6 or
honestly.
7 ERA. That's
When
insane.
when we did our
After winning a World Series, it was
Yes,
impressive. Yeah.
when
doesn't
we
make
did
any
our fantasy
sense.
draft, I don't think Snell, Montgomery, or Chapman. I don't think any of them were even signed yet.
No,
I stayed away from them. I didn't like.
no, I didn't take any of them.
Yeah, because I knew
Um,
something like that would. What happened to Montgomery would happen. Like I knew that would happen, but Snell started out rough. Like I don't
Snell
even know what
definitely
his
started
ERA
rough.
was the first couple games of the season, but
Yeah. He always
obviously
seems
late
to
in the
kick into
season,
gear, June and July.
yeah,
He's
he
outstanding. I think he had the
top
best ERA in baseball
top
last
three
year in July.
pitcher the last like the second half of the season,
Yeah,
probably top three
second half
pitcher.
Snell is a
Yeah,
different
So do you
being.
guys kind of see
I think
But
Bregman
back
goes
Snell,
to
to
Red Sox.
Bregman,
Bregman to Boston?
I see
I see that.
Boston. I could see Tigers, but yeah, like we talked about, they don't want to give him the years, and I see why. I feel like I've already seen regression in him because I had him in fantasy in 23, and it he was on free agency. He was in free agency for a while, like just sitting there, and I was like, you know what, I'll pick him up, and he did pick it up, but he did not have that great of a year in 24. I don't think because I remember seeing him in free agency pretty much the whole year, I believe. So
I want to say I did see earlier today Bregman is absolutely refusing a short-term contract. What do you think he considers to be a short-term contract? Because I believe the Red Sox, what they already offered him a
The
contract.
Red Sox do not have a contract on the table at the moment. They are waiting for his years to come down. The initial report was that he wanted 7 years. And I think this was a little bit earlier in the offseason, kind of late November, January time. They were talking about, a potential 7-year deal. Obviously, he got offered from Houston 6 years, 156, which he declined. They then went on to make their moves and trade away Tucker, bring in Paredes. They got Singleton that can play first. They got Jordan. It's kind of a logjam there. So Bregman back to Houston doesn't really seem feasible at this moment. But back to the beginning of the offseason, all the rumors were, he's looking for that 6 to 7 year gap, contract length, and all the teams involved aren't looking to give him a deal of that size just because he is past 30. It will be a bigger size deal, probably in the range of 27 to 29 million per year. That's a lot to offer up for an aging third baseman. Or like Alex Cora mentioned with the Red Sox, if they do bring him in, probably be playing second base. I think at this moment, like I said, there's nothing been offered, but I envision the Red Sox are looking for it to come down to a 3 or 4 year deal with maybe an
I
opt
wouldn't give him
out
more.
and potentially load up that AAV to make it somewhere around a 4 year, 125 million. That'd be a little over 30 a year. Kind of increase the number per year, but lower the numbers down. So you kind of get out of that contract at age 35 ish instead of 38, as is what he wants. I think recent contracts, especially with the Red Sox, Trevor Story, Masataka Yoshida, I think John Henry has a reluctance to dish out big long-term contracts as of recently because those two have been failures. Let's
Yeah,
just say, like, they have not lived up to expectations. 3 years in Boston now. A story. He's been injured in all three. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. He hasn't been producing. He is looking for a big bounce back in 2025. He's currently the best right-handed bat the Red Sox have. So if they don't sign Bregman and they don't bring in an Alonso or they don't bring in a Santander, it will a lot of the a lot of the weight of the from the right side on this Red Sox roster will have to come from Trevor Story. And
can he stay healthy?
can he stay healthy? We don't know. Obviously, excellent defender, but that's a big question mark. I think Bregman doesn't really have. I know the Blue Jays are trying to offer him, that big deal. I just don't envision him taking that. It's kind of a career ender. Same with Detroit. Comerica doesn't really profile for his, for him as a player, and that's a very big ballpark. I think his numbers are going to
Very
come down a
big.
lot. He's. I read a stat that among players who have a minimum of 50 at bats Alex Bregman is one of the best hitters in Fenway Park history.
I was gonna say, I think I can see him hitting pretty dang good on the Green Monster, hitting over that wall. I'd say Houston, in comparison, would probably be the closest you can say to Fenway because they do have that closer.
Yeah, they got the
They have a
copper
tall
boxes.
wall,
Yeah.
but it's in more.
And we've seen what Bregman's done there. Like,
Exactly.
for many years.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it was after May 13th last year. He had one homer, or before May 13th, he had one homer, and after that, he went on to hit 25 more. Had like a 780 OPS. So I
Yeah.
think a slow start last year for Bregman kind of doctored those numbers a little bit. Obviously, he isn't gonna be ascending. He's gonna be descending. He's an aging player, but I think it's a
He can
big
get
move the
close.
Red Sox
He can get
should
close to
make.
25.
They really don't have a leader in that locker room right now. That clubhouse desperately needs a voice. I think Bregman's Gold Glove defense. I agree with Alex Cora. I think he could be a Gold Glove second baseman. I know
Alex Cora coached him in Houston, right?
yeah, the connection there. He was the bench coach in 2017. Let's not
He's
talk about what
definitely. I
happened in
was to say
2017.
he's definitely a veteran player. He has 2 rings, 1 ring. No, he has 2
Leave in the
rings.
comments if he has 2 rings or 1 ring.
He has 2 rings. Don't celebrate that championship.
They're gonna celebrate.
You can claim it. You can claim it. Don't celebrate it.
They're not gonna listen. You're a Dodger fan. They're not gonna listen to that.
I don't
All
hate.
right.
Hey, I don't hate Houston. I don't.
I do.
Yeah.
I think that's a conversation for another day.
I don't hate Houston. I'll boo them, sure. Like everybody else, it's just part of the fun at a ballpark. With Houston coming around, you're gonna boo them, especially specific players. Carlos Correa still gets booed out there in Minnesota. Not in Minnesota, right?
but
But
around the league,
he's
yeah,
gonna
for
get
sure.
booed.
Jose will always be booed in New York.
It does not matter.
They feel he stole an MVP away from Judge in 2017. So, other than the Sasaki news, which hasn't dropped, we know his finalists. Other than Alonso leaving, which not confirmed, but it looks like they are pivoting away from him. I think the biggest news from now until spring training is what's going to happen with Vlad Guerrero Jr. in Toronto. It was said today from Ken Rosenthal in his report that a Vlad Jr. trade is not out of the question. However, that extension talks will be intensifying before that February 17th deadline. Guerrero said, I'm not going to be talking about it during spring training. We get it done now, or I'm going to free agency.
I think he should. I think as he should. He's a great player that could get a very high number if he gets free agency. And was there trade talks about him with anybody, right?
With
I
Vlad,
believe at the moment,
the Mets have checked
the
in.
Mets have checked
Okay.
in because obviously Alonso has shifted away from their plans. However, we kind of don't know what that deal would look like. We don't know how intense those talks are
Yeah.
at the moment. The Blue Jays have kind of put out in the media that, not themselves, but they've had their members of the media leak that they will not be engaging in trade talks. They will be trying to
Okay.
extend them, and he will be a Blue Jay in 2025. What on opening day? I think a trade at the deadline isn't out of the question. I think that was if they're out of the picture in late July, I think it would be in the best interest of Toronto to move him to Boston.
Have to.
If they
Oh,
don't
he
extend
would.
him, what is the point of holding on to him? You're not making the playoffs this year. Your division is crowded. And I mean, to be fair though, the American League isn't very strong this year.
It's not very strong at all. No.
But like I don't believe the Blue Jays are finishing above the Red Sox or the Yankees. Surprise me.
Baltimore.
Surprise
Or Orioles.
I know
Yeah,
Baltimore lost
Baltimore.
Burns and Santander.
Surprise me if you
But-
want to, but I don't think you are going to. You're gonna need a big bounce back season from Bo Bichette, George Springer. Like I can keep going if I
Dalton
wanted
Varsho,
to. Yeah.
big guys like that. They just made
Kevin
that.
Gossman he regressed too,
They
right?
did just trade for Andres Jimenez. So
But,
will
okay,
increase
yeah,
the defense. Not
him
really
and-
on the hitting side, but
Him and his 600 OPS, whatever it is.
Yeah. He's gonna bring that Gold Glove defense. And
Yeah.
not to mention, they also took on all 97 million of his contract. So
Yeah.
I think that trade in some sort of fashion could prohibit the Blue Jays from kind of giving the money that Vlad wants because it's already being allocated there. We know that Gosman has a big deal. We know Barrios has a big deal. We know
Springer got a pretty big deal too.
Yeah, we know Chris Bassett's making a hefty salary there. So, where do you guys envision? Not where you think he should play. Where do you expect him to be in 2026? So not this
I'll
upcoming
say
season, but the next one.
right now I don't have any expectations, so I'm not really gonna give much of an opinion on it. But could you imagine him in Boston? He's hitting 50 bombs over that wall.
He
That
would,
one.
yes, he would.
I
break
don't have
every
a.
roster.
I can't tell you where he can go, but I don't see. I don't see the Blue Jays giving him a big enough number that because
He's got to test free agency.
he will get a massive number if he has even a little bit of the year he had last year, 2024. If he has close to the same year, he's getting a massive deal. Probably not in the same range because of his position as like Soto or Otani, but he's getting a massive deal. He's probably getting around 500.
Look at Soto. When he was still with the Nationals, they offered him I forget the years, but
like
400.
I want to say it was a
15,
$440 million contract, and he declined,
which would have been a record at that time.
Which turned out to be an excellent decision.
Yeah.
By the way.
So I feel like Vlad's gonna see that exact example. He's about the same age as Soto. I believe Vlad might be a year older or so.
Yeah.
Not enough to matter.
Yeah, not enough of an age difference to matter. But I think he's just gonna see that and say, "I got to try the same thing." Like the Blue Jays would have to offer him the same contract that he would get in free agency in order for him to accept that. I believe. I think he's just got to test free agency. Because what the Yankees, did they have contract extension talks with Soto before the season?
No, I believe that Soto had said from the jump that he was going to wait until free agency.
Yeah, so I think
I feel like they might have tried, but he shot it down.
Yeah,
immediately. I feel like I remember that being said.
Yeah. So going into 2026, he would be just entering his age 27 season. Okay. So he's say what you want. I believe he's entering his prime. I don't believe I don't believe he's been entered it yet. I think he's still on the rise. I think especially if you make him a full-time DH in Boston, you let him hit. You don't let him worry about playing first. You don't worry about him playing third. You know, if you decide to keep Devers at third and you somehow pulled off a signing of Vlad in 2026, I agree where it could be major numbers in Fenway. He is absolutely tortured Boston in Boston since 2019, since his debut. He's been one of the Red Sox killers since entering the league, and every time he steps up at Fenway, I fear a ball is going onto Lansdowne.
That power is next level. After when he competed in that home run derby and what was it?
Rookie year 2019.
Cleveland, right?
Against Pete Alonso,
oh my God.
who might be his teammate.
That Jock Peterson round with him.
I was gonna say
tiebreaker after tiebreaker after tiebreaker.
All those Jock Peterson home run derbies were different.
Yeah, it's hard to envision a trade, just because that is the franchise player that would signify to all of Canada that they are punting on 2025, and maybe for the foreseeable future, which would cause chaos.
To me, it's
sad. In Toronto, and I don't think, because then at that point you got to move Bichette, and you got to start unloading some of these veteran contracts because you got to you got to restart, you got to rebuild this thing. If you move your veteran, or if you move your superstar, face of the franchise, in the midst of his prime, or if he's going to be entering his prime, that will be a situation that Ross Atkins does not want to deal with. And it's hard to picture a trade, but also it's hard to envision him re-signing if they don't get this done before the February 17th deadline. I don't even know who else could be involved next offseason. I feel like the Mets would be there. You know, they could just shift back Vientos back to third, put Guerrero at first. I think the Red Sox got to be involved. I think if you can still have an infield of Devers at third and Tristan Casas at first. I think I wouldn't mind paying Vlad to DH. I don't need him to play defense. I need him to hit bombs.
Yeah. I know y'all love your DHs over there, Big Poppy.
Yeah, I think that he is very good friends with Rafael Devers. I think the Red Sox have had success with bringing on Dominican players. It's hard to imagine. I think the Yankees would maybe try to be involved there, but he stated that he really has no desire to play there.
I don't think
He goes to New York. He's losing all his aura. He's got to shave his
Yeah,
beard.
I think. Yeah, I don't think he
No.
would look the same for sure.
No,
And I
no.
think Murakami, like Zach kind of pointed out, is more in their plans at this moment. I think I'd like to talk about a team that years of the past probably doesn't get talked about very often, and that's the Oakland A's, now the Sacramento A's, and going to be the Las Vegas A's. They shocked everyone at the beginning of this offseason, handing out a 3-year, $67 million contract to Luis Severino. They went out and traded for Jeffrey Springs from Tampa Bay. Then they went out and extended Brent Rooker for a contract that some people
5 years, 60.
are saying, they got a good deal on. I
They
know
got
a
a
lot of those
great
deals are
deal.
through arbitration. However, they have made moves. They have spent money.
Yeah.
And that AL West is very weak.
Very.
Kyle Tucker out of the division. Alex Bregman potentially out of the division. Right? The Rangers, they were incredibly injured in 2024. The most injured team in baseball. They will be getting guys back like Jacob deGrom, probable opening day starter. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say that Sacramento could be making a playoff appearance in 2025.
Absolutely.
I think if they make a playoff appearance, it'll be them winning the division. Like, I don't think that again, the American League's not that strong, but I don't think that they're strong enough to take the wild card from other teams, but they are strong enough to take first place. Angels, no. Who else we got?
You would take the A's over the Rangers for winning that division?
Not necessarily, but if we're talking about if they're making a playoff appearance, I think it's through first place, not in the wild card.
You don't see them going
Not in the wild card when you've got teams like possibly Boston being better this year, Orioles, Yankees. Who knows who's taking that division?
Who were the wild card teams this year? It was Orioles, Royals, and who's the other?
Not the Twins.
Tigers. The A's.
Cleveland won that division.
Yeah.
I think they can pass up the Tigers easily, and Royals not so easily, but I still can see it.
Not the Royals. No.
Yeah, it took a phenomenal September for Detroit to kind of elevate themselves into
the Twins having the worst. My
Minnesota
God,
completely collapsed.
My God,
they were an absolute train wreck in September. They were the team that was pretty much penciled in as a wildcard team in August.
The percentages were there. They were like there was like a 4% chance or something of them not making it.
Yeah, just an unprecedented collapse. And now they're shredding payroll again. So that team they're another team that's added next to nothing in free agency. There have been Carlos Correa rumors for a trade. I think with his contract, it's a little bit more difficult to move him than some of these other guys on the market. While there have been teams that have went out, Dodgers of last year, the Mets of this year, going out and spending a ridiculous amount of money in free agency, there are definitely a lot of teams who haven't. I think one that sticks out is the Seattle Mariners. Probably a top 3 pitching rotation in baseball.
Has to be.
With studs up and down that starting rotation, and they just have next to nothing on offense.
Mm-mm.
And the guys are out there, while they might not be fits for Safeco Field, yes, I will still call it Safeco Field. I mean, that's probably one of that profiles as the worst ballpark in baseball for hitters, I think, other than San Francisco.
Numbers wise, it looks to be that way.
But so it might be harder to attract hitters. But
who are notable names? Arenas, like pretty much the only guy I can think of.
Obviously they're expecting a Julio Rodriguez bounce back season.
Rayleigh.
Yeah.
So who's their next big hitter besides those 3? Are we trying to say that J.P. Crawford?
And
I don't think J.P. Crawford is making that bounce.
And that's not an impressive 3 at all.
Yeah, I think
there's like 10 other teams that have a better 3.
In a division, they're just a team that I unfortunately see trending as last year. Remember last year they had a 10-game lead in the division in June, and just another Minnesota situation absolutely collapsed.
Yes, definitely. I think it also has to do with Houston starting off so bad.
They were,
my God.
If the Mariners are having a hard time finding guys to sign with them in free agency, go get some trades done. You guys have the pitching staff to go do it. Go get Alec Boehm. Go get Carlos Correa, like we said. Maybe JP Crawford can move over to second base. I know Correa is a gold glover, platinum glover, I believe, at one point. Go make some trades. You guys have the prospects and the pitching to be able to do that. Like, yes, those might cost some big guys, but you have the guys in order to make those trades get done.
Yeah, I think Luis Castillo is a big name that should be on the block, and I know John Morosi had mentioned back in December that this was mere moments after the Crochet deal was finalized that Boston was in talks with Seattle, and the name Tristan Casas had been thrown around in that deal. Still trying to understand their point of view of trying to insert him in these deals. I know they were trying to offload Yoshida's contract in that potential deal. There was a report that the Red Sox had offered Casas and Yoshida for a Luis Castillo. Now, when that was kind of detailed and brought to light, it did raise some eyebrows because the Red Sox, that was prior to adding Buehler. And I think they were trying to fortify that 1-2 in the rotation while having Houck, Bayo, and guys like Kutter Crawford and, Lucas Giolito's coming back off surgery. He missed all of 2024. Seattle, so they were engaged. They didn't get a deal done. I think a guy of his caliber, while he still has some value and he still has, some money left on that contract. I believe he has 3 years and about $50 million left. I think they got to find a way to move off of him, and you keep that young 4 with Gilbert, Kirby, Wu,
Miller,
and Bryce Miller, and you move off the veteran of that group and you bring in a bat. I think
they still have Emerson Hancock coming up. He's supposed to be just
Hancock,
as good as those other guys.
Whatever you
I think
said.
Hancock could easily slot in as the 5. And I personally love that idea of, I know Philly's rotation is pretty set. They don't need any more starters. But yeah, go out and get an Alec Boehm. Go out and, honestly, anyone helps. Go out and get a Masataka Yoshida. Last year, when healthy, he's producing at a high level. He's got an above average WRC+, got an above average OPS+. I think they just can't waste this dynamic young starting rotation they have year after year because they refuse to go put money into bats. And I really don't see them go. I know it's a weaker American League. You kind of got the Yankees. I think Texas will bounce back. I think you got the Red Sox. That's not a whole lot of teams. And I think Seattle is wasting their chance to kind of push themselves up that ladder in the American League and say, hey, we're here. And, we think we're going to be contending for an American League title.
I can think of a bat that they can pick up. Luis Robert. I was just trying to think of somebody. I can see that being a good fit because the White Sox, let's be real, they should not be holding on to him, and the Mariners should not hold back at giving them somebody for that trade. I think that honestly, the White Sox, they're not going to just take anything, right? But I think in a way they kind of will. Like, they just had the worst season ever.
The worst season
ever.
The modern era of Major League Baseball. 121 losses. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. They were an atrocious team.
We might see it this year.
Yeah,
maybe it'll happen more.
Their roster doesn't look any better.
They lost Garrett Crochet. Who knows? Maybe they do trade Luis Robert before the season starts.
Still pretty baffling that their biggest contract in history is Andrew Benintendi.
Yeah. Wow.
Who
Red
is,
Sox
let's
legend.
just say, is not contributing to the 2025 White Sox. As much as I love Andrew Benintendi, former
Red Sox legend.
Baseball, I don't think he's doing that.
No.
Who are some other teams who could be spending more money? I think there are a few in my mind, but I'd like to hear. I think Seattle's the biggest one, but who else do we think?
Let's be real. Everybody but the Dodgers. And that's why people hate us, because we're spending the money.
Besides the Dodgers and Mets,
they hate us because we're spending the money. But I don't think it's more that you should be hating on the Dodgers for taking all these names and, oh, we need a salary cap and all these things. And you're not saying stuff that I'm not necessarily not like, I don't disagree with you. I think that in some ways, yeah, maybe there should be a salary cap. There kind of is with the tax, right? If you go over a certain number.
The luxury tax.
Yeah, the luxury tax. There in a way there is, but ultimately, let's be real, like with
Those rich owners don't
the
care about
Mets
it.
owner does not care. That's not going to do anything to him. But
They
like,
are creeping up towards that number of 301.
yeah,
There's been talk today from Andy Martino that they're okay with going over the number, but they don't want to exceed it that high. That's why I think Alonso is leaving. But just wanted to add on to your point about
Because
the tax.
there's different thresholds of
Yeah.
the tax.
Yeah.
and I think also to add to my point of it's not the Dodgers' fault. It's your team's fault. You should be mad at your team. You can say whatever you want. Oh, you're a Dodgers fan. It's easy for you to say. And you're right, it is kind of easy for me to say, but at the same time, I try and put myself in the shoes of like an Angels fan, right? That's the closest stadium to me. I would love to go to competitive Angel games, but instead they're not competitive, and I have to go for $2. It's because they're not spending money, and when they do, it's kind of like, well, why did they do that?
They're just spending to spend.
Why did they do
Essentially, at
that?
point.
Like,
they're not making the team better.
You see Kikuchi.
they
That's
signed
their
Kikuchi.
big contract so far.
That
Yeah,
feels
age 34. He's that. I know he had a great year last year, but we know what the Angels do to great players.
It just feels so
who had a great
random.
year last year. Let's look at Anthony Rendon in 2019, World Series champion, a
World
core member,
MVP runner up.
a core member of that 2019 Nationals team, heart of the order. He joins Los Angeles, and he's played how many games in 5 years with the Angels?
Albert Pujols, we all know what he was with the Cardinals. Comes to
Probably the best right-handed hitter in National League history.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he comes to the Angels. He did have, I want to say, 2, maybe 3 solid years to start that contract. But the last half of that, they ended up releasing him towards the end of it. The Dodgers picked him up. Josh Hamilton, they can go out and get these big stars, but look what happens to them when they go there.
Pujols, when he came to the Dodgers, was so random. Like, let's be real, he was an unk, right? He's an unk. But we kind of gave Unk a little bit of a spark, and he was like, I want to compete, right?
They called him Tio Alberto.
Yeah.
He was there to play.
He wanted to play. He wanted to compete. He hadn't seen the playoffs in how long? Last time was 2014, right? When the Angels were, or was he on the Angels then? Right?
Yeah, he was.
He had to be.
I think that was his first year.
And they got swept by the freaking wild card Royals when they had the best record in the league. The Angels had the best record in their league, and they got swept by the wild card Royals. And
the last time the Angels made the playoffs.
The last time the Angels made the playoffs, they had the best freaking record in the league.
Yep, they won 98 games that year.
So crazy.
But lost both games at home in the ALDS in extra innings. It was a pretty heartbreaking kind of defeat for them. And as we know, we all have a ton of Angels fans as friends. And
the fact that Trout has had 3 playoff games, and if I'm not mistaken, 1 hit.
Yeah,
and it was a home run. It looked great, but 1 hit. Mike Trout, 1 career postseason hit, 3 career games. How sad is that if that's how we end the story of Trout at some point?
Mike Trout, his rookie season was what, 11 or 12? 2011?
12. It was 11?
One of those two.
He debuted in 11 and he won the AL Rookie of the Year in 2012.
That's what I thought.
So he's been in the league for almost a decade and a half. Everyone in this room has the same amount of playoff wins as Mike Trout. 0.
Yeah.
Like, the Angels need to either do him a favor and trade him to a contender.
Major League. I have a lot of playoff wins. So do you.
What do you mean?
Major League playoff wins.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
All right, we're not talking about Little League anymore.
Okay, well, if we're talking that, then we have way more.
Reminiscing, sorry.
But yeah, Angels, either do him a favor and trade him to a contender. He would love to go to the Phillies. That's where he's from, isn't he? He's from that area.
From Pennsylvania. Big Eagles fan.
What do the Phillies need right now? Do you think if they can add to one more spot, what do you think it would be? I think it would be center field.
Outfield.
A healthy Mike Trout. A healthy Mike Trout, though.
That's the thing.
What has it been? Like
He's
5
going
years
to
in
the
a row now,
Dodgers.
he's had to spend a lot of time on the injured list, and I think that's really prohibited anything the Angels could do.
He has put up good numbers when
Because-
he's there,
yeah.
but he's not there.
But I think the Angels probably need to make the move soon to just either put him in a corner outfield spot, put him in left, preserve his health a little bit, or put him as a designated hitter. You need his bat in the lineup. While his fielding, while his defense is good when he's on the field, moving at full speed.
You need to
It's
do
not
anything
as-
you can to try and mitigate a risk of him getting hurt.
Mitigate the risks and maximize your value. You're not getting any value of him on the IL.
Mm-mm.
He's making a ton of money. Still on that 12-year contract. He's got a no trade clause. So it really would take Mike Trout, I think, going to Artie Moreno and Scary Perry, as Angel fans like to call him, the general manager, to make a move there.
Funny story about him.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We won't talk about that.
No.
However, I'd like to end this off with I want to get one bold move for the rest of the offseason. I think I'll go first. While they've been quiet since the very beginning of free agency, I believe an team unknown is going to come out of the woodworks and give Anthony Santander a big deal, and I believe that it's going to be the Angels.
I was gonna say
They always have these late sort of big contracts
random.
to random players you don't envision going there, right? Like, I don't think many people envisioned, Anthony Rendon going there. I think at least once in a while they have these big contracts that they'll shell out. And I have some gut feeling that Santander's market isn't going to be where he wants it. Maybe he wants to go back to the AL East. Blue Jays, Red Sox have been rumored. But I think with how honestly unfortunate that the Angels have been for the last 10 years, they need a reason for fans to be in that ballpark. And I think their last splash of the offseason is going to be Anthony
You can see
Santander.
a lot of home
Where
runs
they
in those
where they
right field
fit
seats.
him in that outfield, I'm not sure. You got Taylor Ward, Joe Adell, Mike Trout. Those guys all sort of fit in the mix. But I think Santander, obviously coming off a 44 home run season, he's going to hit bombs anywhere. I think the Angels make that splash.
And he's got to play the outfield too, because they already added Jorge Soler. He's clogged up that DH spot
Got
for
Shinwell up
for the
first.
year.
If
Sean
they
Wall
wanted
first.
to move him
Santander,
over to third.
Santander's a pretty good defender.
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
no,
I'm thinking somebody else.
he's not. He
He's
should
going to hit bombs in Anaheim. That's on opening day. Count it. He will be an Angel.
He's a
That is
switch
my
hitter,
bold
right?
prediction.
opening day Angel. I would go with that.
He's a switch hitter, right?
Yes.
I can see batting from that left side, hitting a lot of home runs in those right field seats.
We need to get this guy on Baseball Reference.
We do.
No.
Give him a blank sheet, no name at the top, just the stats. Let's see how many he can guess. That's a video idea.
More than you think. I may be an
He'll be
unk.
spearheading content. We got the sporacles.
I may be an unk, but
Alright,
got some names
Zach,
in here.
bold
do you have a bold
prediction
take? I'm still
for
trying
the
to cook
rest
one
of
up.
free agency / trade before opening day.
I don't think that it's like necessarily bold. Maybe it is now because I feel like even today it kind of got said that Pete Alonso will not be on the Mets. But I kind of see Pete Alonso's market not going his way and him just kind of accepting whatever the Mets may throw at him. That could be bold. I don't know.
I think maybe the Mets pushing out those reports that they are pivoting away. I could see maybe that as like a tactic to bring his market down, kind of bring his number down, and they can reach an agreement. But putting out a statement like that and putting out a report like that will ultimately damage that relationship. And I think it's kind of hard to come back from that when it's publicly said, "Hey, we're pivoting away from him," to kind of then bring him back into the fold.
I feel like Alonso and Bregman are kind of in the same. Like they're at the same spot. I feel like it feels like they are a pretty decent bat to add to your lineup, right? But I feel like in a little bit they've shown regression for sure. So you gotta imagine that continues. So that's like teams are hesitant to give them like what Bregman said 7 years or 6 years, right?
Yeah,
One of the
wanted
two.
to 7.
One of the two. If I'm a GM, I'm not giving them not them. I'm not giving Bregman more than 4. I don't think. I think 4 is a good number to keep him around for those 4, see where he's at, and then extend if needed.
I would give Bregman more than I would give Alonso.
Yeah,
Bregman's at more of a premium position.
More of a premium position.
more.
He's more athletic of a player. He's gonna give you that, leadership tactic.
Yes.
He's gonna give you 25 bombs.
Alonso's
I think Alonso's pretty limited in as the player of
eventually
who he
probably
he
gonna
can
be a DH.
Yeah,
If
Alonso's
I think
gonna be
if
Alonso
he's
will
in
absolutely
the
transition
league
to
long
DH.
enough, if somebody gives him a contract long enough, he'll be a DH within the next few seasons probably.
So bold prediction for you: Mets still,
I don't
after saying they won't bring back Alonso, you think they'll bring him back?
I don't like that as my bold prediction, but I can't think of anything else. I did like what I like kind of was like thinking when we were talking about Seattle with the I haven't heard that anywhere at all. It just literally just came from my head is the Robert going to Seattle. I think like they need a big bat. We're talking about big bats. I was trying to think of somebody in my head, and that just made sense
I like that.
to the pieces that they could move to Chicago. To get Robert in that lineup, like did Robert? What do we call him? I like to
think
call
he
him
says
Robert because
Robert.
I like to call him Robert, but I guess it sounds like a lot of people are calling him Robert now. He hit in the home run derby there, right?
In Seattle, yes.
I don't remember how great he did, but I don't know. I'd love to see him hitting bombs in Seattle. He didn't have a great year, let's be honest. The White Sox didn't have a great year whatsoever. Like, pretty much anywhere you look at the White Sox, they did not have a great year outside of Crochet. Um, Robert hopefully can bounce back in 2025 with wherever he is. Now that I said it, I would love to see him in Seattle. I think that'd be a cool fit.
I think that's a good bold prediction.
All right. You aren't gonna like me for this one.
Let Zach cook.
This is one of the players that we're just talking about right now. Well, I got 2 players I want to talk about actually. I think the Dodgers still have 2 more big moves in them. Let's say Sasaki goes to the Padres. Let's just say that's already done. So ignore Sasaki right now. I think Dodgers get Tanner Scott, and I think they're not gonna want, as of right now, Hae Song Kim, one of those 2, I forget how you pronounce it, and Chris Taylor. That's who they're playing at second base. I think they're gonna want to get a Luis Robert Jr. and let Tommy Edman play the infield. Just imagine that. So let's just
I
say
think
Tommy
Luis
Edman.
Robert 2025 and Chavez Ravine would be lethal.
What would that outfield be? So Mookie Betts, we already know, is moving to the infield. So let's say Teoscar left field, center field Luis Robert, right field Michael Conforto and Andy Pajes.
Conforto,
Andy Pajes and Conforto, like platoon, depending on the
Freddie
pitcher.
At first.
Freddie at first, Edmund at second, Mookie at short, Muncy at third, Will Smith at catcher. Saying this out loud is insane.
Now Scott,
But Tanner Scott, who
the Dodgers have more money to spend.
The Dodgers,
100%.
they were offering Juan Soto $600+ million that we know of at least. What's to say that they don't have more to spend? Like, what big signing have they made since then?
We deferred that
Ohtani $2 million a year.
We deferred that Ohtani contract for a reason.
There's a reason Ohtani got deferred. I do think. Okay, if we do get Sasaki, then yes, we get Tanner Scott and we can trade for Luis Robert. If we don't get Sasaki, then I think I messed up earlier. So yeah, if we do get Sasaki, we don't have to pay him a lot of money. So that's why we can get Scott and Luis Robert Jr. But if we don't get Sasaki, then that's when we have to go out and get another starting pitcher. I would say maybe they're going to be okay with letting Gonsolin or May stay in their rotation. But I still think that they would go after a Flaherty, maybe a Pivetta. Maybe.
I think Pavetta's stuff would maybe profile a little bit better in Dodger Stadium. But, however, he would come with the qualifying offer.
True.
So you would be getting a draft pick for him.
Yeah. So. Which I don't think the Dodgers are, like, too concerned about because our farm system is deep. We're not ranked like the Red Sox are, but I think they are in the top 5, top 10 for sure.
We've always been up there.
But yeah, I'm going to say my hot take. Tanner Scott signs with the Dodgers. Luis Robert Jr. traded to the Dodgers.
That's pretty cool. I think that would be maybe the final pieces to bringing together a potential back-to-back championship season
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
Dodgers.
Definitely.
Would not shock me.
And along with him would also be Sasaki. Let's just add that in there.
That roster would be
The greatest of all time, I would say.
That's a conversation for another day. I think.
Let's talk about
27 Yankees out of the 25 Dodgers.
health
That's what you're
aside.
saying after that.
Yeah. Health issues aside, I would think that's the best constructed roster ever. Because the weakest part in that lineup would be Tommy Edman, maybe.
Who just
Well,
came off an LCS
Michael
MVP.
I was gonna say
Conforto or
Conforto,
Eddie Paz.
Paz.
Like, okay, weakest spot in that rotation, Kershaw, which he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
And let's be real, when
MVP.
Kershaw pitches, like how many games did he pitch? 20.
He pitched less than 10 for sure.
He didn't have a bad year.
He didn't. I think his first start, maybe 2 starts, were not. They were rough, but he did do.
When
have a
Kershaw
solid season
pitches,
overall.
you're almost like always gonna get, in some way, shape, or form,
I know you're
a quality start.
Yeah, Kershaw last year had he was a little bit of a up and down season. It was very short.
For
He only
sure.
went 2-2 with a 4.5 ERA, 1.5 WHIP. But
1.5.
I think the Dodgers construction for this upcoming season is a conversation for another day. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you guys for joining the first episode of the podcast. Subscribe down below, comment down below, share with your friends. Diamond Dudes Podcast. Zach, Jared, Brady. We'll see you guys next time.
Let's go eat.